life and my role models really are authors and people who've written books that I've read, and people who I continue to read. So let's say, for example, I read blogs from people like Mark Manson. I think he's a great writer. There's another one, I really like his writing. His name is Stephen Handel. When I read Stephen Handel, it's almost like me talking just a little bit deeper. There's also a book called The Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. That is another part of my which was spiritual mentorism issue, if you will. So, I mean, I can name authors all day, but I just wanted to give you an idea on who are some of the people that have knowledge that I studied from.
That is amazing, too. And, of course, we like to, hear a little more about those and some of the subjects. But first, you're listening to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online for all your website needs at sonicwebstudios.com. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable, custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Evan Fine of the Senior Reserve Group. When you start a business or own a business for a while, who are you going to call for sole proprietorship insurance? Why not call the expert, Evan Fine of Senior Reserve Group, for all your health insurance needs. Evan can be reached at 1-800-650-9357. That's 1-800-650-9357. Or Evan Fine at seniorreservegroup.com. That's email evanfine@seniorreservegroup.com. Licensed in 7 states, in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Delaware, South Carolina, and Florida. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. Also, check on Facebook at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can also download and listen on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, you can watch the interview on YouTube as well. We're here with motivational speaker, podcaster, men's confidence coach, and Toastmaster and teacher from New York City, Dennis Sumlin of CoreConfidenceLife.com. And he has also had a number of classes that you could also take. He has a podcast, and he can also talk to you about on many things like in course, like confidence, relationships, sex, and other topics, self-esteem, and maybe you can just talk about some of the other online classes that you offer and how do people enroll?
All right. Well, first, what we spoke about earlier is the public speaking. So there's 2 different kinds. There's an online public speaking course. You can also hire me as a one-on-one public speaking coach. And if you're in the New York City metropolitan area, there is a class coming up. So you can go to the website, CoreConfidenceLife.com, and read more about the public speaking classes. Whether you go to the New York City Metro page or the one-on-one coaching page, it's really the same information on the public speaking. So, if you want to find out more about that and sign up or ask me more questions or talk one-on-one about how I can get you from whisper to wow, that's the way you can do it. The other service that I offer, of course, is the men's confidence coaching piece of this. And that has a little bit of interpersonal communication in it as well. But it also talks about getting you out of your comfort zone, dealing with your issues around anxiety, low self-esteem, and really breaking you out of your comfort zone. So this is good for people who feel a little shy, a little introverted, people who feel like they want to boost their social life, people feel like they need a little bit more love and affection and friendship in their life, and they've been kind of stagnant. So this is the service that would be for you. And we would work on interpersonal communication skills, how you present yourself to others, the things that you want out of relationships. And then we would move into really what kind of relationships do you want? Attracting the right relationships. Do those relationships fit your values, your views, what you really want in your life? Not what you think you want, but what you really want. Mm-hmm. Also, for some people, there are people who experience a lack of confidence sexually, and they have a low self-esteem as far as their manhood or their sexuality, or they have some performance anxiety or some problems in that area. There's also a piece for that. And so the goal of all of that is to really get you out of your comfort zone, really get you feeling more self-confident, having a better self-image, learning how to cope with life's setbacks so you can bounce back, and feeling comfortable in yourself as a man. And that's, of course, socially, sexually, spiritually, to get you on that road to be the strength and the power for your family, friends, and future.
That is amazing as well, too. And of course, another question is, like, if people are interested but they're outside New York, do you also do video conferencing or also on Skype?
Yes, I don't use Skype, though. I use Zoom. We don't like Skype here. Here at the Core Confidence Life, we don't like Skype. So I use Zoom. And, yes, as far as signing up with me, you don't have to be in New York. The public speaking course, there is a New York class that's here, but you could also hire me one-on-one. The men's confidence coaching, you can hire me one-on-one for that. You don't have to be in New York. We can do video conferencing, and that would be fine.
That is great as well, too. And, of course, you also talk about as well, too, in your podcast as well. And you can also tell us about that. And you've had some very, very interesting topics that you had as well, too. And we're just looking at that as well, too. So you can tell everybody where can they listen to your podcast, what do you guys talk about, and, if you have guests and how they get on, and you can just tell more about your podcast. We love for people to tune in.
Sure. Well, the podcast is more of an extension of the men's confidence coaching piece of it. I do have a podcast that gets more into public speaking, but that's a different podcast. But the main one we're talking about here, Core Confidence Life Podcast, that's mainly part of the men's personal development part. And basically, it's the same as what I just described. We talk about confidence, self-esteem, self-image, relationships, sex, non-religious spirituality, all the pieces that really make a pro-growth, soul-centered man whole. And so we have those discussions, and we have guests that come on the program to talk about their experiences going through the ups and downs of having a low self-esteem, depression, anxiety. We have guests that talk about their different relationship challenges, breakups and marriages and, sex issues and anything pertaining to their relationships and things. And we also have professionals that come on who work with men on these issues. So I've had psychiatrists on, coaches, other podcasters, things like that. And all of this really is in the spirit of each one teach one, because on the podcast we feel that one man's story can inform another man's journey. So if you hear someone going through something that you can relate to, you can listen to the podcast and hear tips that they talk about, hear tips that I pull from what they're talking about, and really get some guidance there. And if you want to be a guest on the show, you go to the website and you click on the Core Confidence Podcast thing in the navigation bar, and everything will be there, all the information. It actually switches navigation bars when you hit the podcast page, so you'll see like become a guest type of thing there.
Hey, that sounds something I'm interested in. And how does one person do that again, to be a guest?
To be a guest? Actually, I'll just make it easy. If you want to be a guest, just go to coreconfidencelife.com/guest. That's coreconfidencelife.com/guest. Right there is the guest application form. It's short, just ask, standard name, email, how you heard about us, what is your expertise that pertains to the podcast, and boom,
That sounds easy enough. I hope you guys were taking notes, by the way. So, and of course, you've heard some really interesting stories of inspiration. You've been inspired by a lot of things. And what are some of the stories of inspiration that you like to share from the clients that you've had, like the most heartwarming, the most charming, or something that just made you cry or something like that? So what are some great stories of inspiration that you've gotten so far?
Well, that's actually a very, very good question. One thing that first came to mind, it's not a tearjerker. It's actually pretty straightforward. It was a person that I was coaching for public speaking. Obviously I heard his speech and, it needed work. And so I just thought it was beautiful to watch this man expand his speech, just add more depth to it. Draw the audience in more just by the work that we did. Just by the patience and diligence of him being willing to work on his speech and himself and his message, and for me to be there to work with him and witness that and to watch him. And he was already a good professional speaker. He hired me because he was speaking at a college in California, so he wasn't at the beginning, but he definitely wanted to make sure he was on point for that engagement. And so it was beautiful to watch him and his speech blossom. And I took him into a Toastmasters setting, and I watched him give the speech there. We did practice speeches in different places, so he can get all ready. So it just was beautiful for me to watch that. Also, something else I thought of more on the personal development tip. I don't know, it just stood out to me when it happened, and it's actually on video in a documentary too. But just, I'm sitting with a client, and we're talking about low self-esteem, and I ask him a simple question, and you can ask yourselves this too. I asked him a simple question: Can you name 3 things about you that you like? And 3 things. That's right. We were just talking. I just said, just pretty simple. Name 3 things about yourself that you like. And I can't tell you how long it took for him to come up with an answer.
Really? Wow.
He eventually gave me an answer, but I don't know if I can tell you what that answer was.
If you want to, that's fine. If you don't want to, that's fine. It's basically your forum, so I'll make it your call on that one. So,
well, I don't know, because it involves an X-rated word. I don't know. I'm all open, but I don't know how this show rolls. Basically, after a long silence, and I mean a long silence, he said, "The only thing I like about myself is my big dick." That's it.
What was it like? What was his name? Dick Tracy or something, or what?
No.
I'm kidding. Or was his name Richard?
But it was striking to me that somebody who had a career, he had a career, he was doing things, he was grown, he wasn't 10, you know what I'm saying? He had a life, he was doing things, but yet and still, he was walking around with this thing in him about not liking himself and he can't think of anything good about himself. And so we worked on that. And he came out to be a little bit better about how he viewed himself, because we worked on looking at yourself without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
We also looked at questioning the negative messages that you absorbed. Instead of just absorbing negative messages, I'm ugly, I'm short, I'm fat, I'll never get this job, question all of those things. Like question, well, who says I'm ugly? Who says I'll never have a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever? Who says that?
Mm-hmm.
And is it true? Does it have basis in fact?
Right. So
when you feel yourself having a low self-esteem moment, when you feel like you're doubting your own abilities, evidence test that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's just, I don't know if that was the story you were looking for or stories, but those are the things that came to my mind.
That's what we're looking for as well, too. Whatever came to mind, you don't have to, do like, hour-long research or say, I'll be right back, just get on the tablet and everything. It's just something comes to mind and what really stands out. And what the program as well, too, is basically just, highlights what people do, some great things and everything else as well, too. And, of course, you've also had a lot of experience as well, too, that you talked about you being a Toastmaster for quite some time, and you can just tell us how you got interested in that, and also tell everybody about the program. That is a very, very interesting thing to do, and it's just something valuable that people need to have.
Toastmasters is a great program. I got into Toastmasters back in, I would say, 2005. I was just kind of looking around at. I had heard of Toastmasters before 2005, and I've definitely by 2005 I've definitely had some vocal experience in training. At that time, I was doing my very first podcast at that time that I had for 2 years at the time. My very first podcast was a political show, so at that time I had that going on, and I just came across Toastmasters by googling around, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've heard of this before, and so there's Toastmasters all over the place, especially here in New York City. There's like a Toastmasters every block. So I went to that first Toastmasters meeting, and I kept going on and off for the next 2 years. And at that time, my girlfriend, who lived in Atlanta, we would go back and forth and see each other. So she lived in Atlanta, and we,